Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Press for Truth. I'm your host, Dan Dix. Today is Friday, May the 29th, 2015, and I'm just excited to get right into today's show because joining us on the line via Skype is the one and only Fritz Springmeier. Now, Fritz is a researcher, he's an author, he's written many books, one of them namely being Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Now, I read this book probably around 15 years ago, and I have to say it's really contributed to my understanding of the big picture and a lot of things going on in the world, and it's contributed to me wanting to get involved in the movement. So first of all, Fritz, thank you so much for the tremendous work you've contributed to the movement, and it's an honor to have you here on Press for Truth, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So I want to get into talk a little bit about the Illuminati. Obviously, it's an incredibly interesting topic, who the modern day Illuminati is, where this is all stemming from. But before we get into that, about a week ago, I saw a lot of mainstream news articles coming out that were suggesting that the CIA has announced that that they released Osama bin Laden's personal library, and they are saying that some of the books that were coming out of his library, one of them being your book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. So what do you make of this recent bizarre propaganda campaign coming from the CIA suggesting that Osama bin Laden was reading one of your books?
It does throw someone for a loop. The reason why is back in May of 2011, they announced that they had gone in and shot Osama bin Laden in the head and dumped his body in the ocean. But the thing was, in the Middle East, it was commonly known that he had already died. And over here in the United States, there were people that had credibility that were saying that Osama bin Laden was actually being created by a double that was imitating him, and this document here, Tim Osman is recorded in this document, intelligence document that's been redacted, and people were saying that he was actually playing the role. So if that's the case, and the evidence seems to fall on that explanation, then this whole thing about them grabbing many duffel bags full of Osama bin Laden's thumb drives, hundreds of thumb drives and all these papers and books, that would just be something then that was also fictitious, not notional,
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then it begs the question, why are they now coming out with this? And of course, we've got this extensive exercise, Jade Helm 15, which is totally designed for martial law in the United States. They are pretending that it has to do with troop deployments overseas. But the exercises which they're saying they're doing because they need realistic training, they're not training on Arab-style houses. They're training on American-style houses. They're training to go in and round up Americans and in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. Arrest Americans. These are the things that they're training on. And also there's some other adjunct aspects of Jade Helm 15, which they're going to be monitoring the entire population of Americans. And so the intelligence agencies and the local police are involved in this. And one of the goals that they had was to practice working with local officials. They contacted hundreds of these local officials and asked them to write letters or emails requesting them to come into their area. So it's given them a lot of practice, but this kind of practice has nothing to do with going overseas.
Right.
And so one has to wonder, is this announcement of a few conspiracy books like mine being in Osama bin Laden's supposed library. Does this connect?
That's right. Question is, why are they bringing up this now and trying to rope in the conspiracy theorists, if you want to call it, types of books? I mean, the list that they announced reads like a who's who of your classic collection of books that people really ought to be reading. Books that I have in my own collection, your book, John Coleman's books, many others. So, it's like they're trying to rope in this concept of conspiracy theorists being the danger that you have to look out for. And as you said, this is going on at the same time as Jade Helm. Very, very interesting that they're bringing this up now. I mean, why would they be roping in yourself, myself, people who are into this with Osama bin Laden once again?
All right. My reaction to the CBS News reporter that wanted a statement from me was to simply ask the question, why is this being done now? Mm-hmm. And anybody who's interested in understanding who the important decision makers are in the United States would want to read my Bloodlines of the Illuminati book. Mm. For instance, there is a genealogy chart in there which shows how 25 American presidents are closely related. And, it's kind of interesting. I came out with that chart several years before this teenage girl supposedly connected the dots and connected some presidents. She did she came up with a chart that it was even less detailed than mine, and she became nationally famous. That was several years after mine was out. You'll notice that if someone like me does something like that, they just ignore it and they call you a theorist.
Well, they obviously are paying close attention and do have some interest in it. What sort of things are going on in the modern day and age with today's Illuminati?
Well, they had a change of leadership in 2008 at Gstaad, Switzerland. And actually that was to some degree for our benefit, because the newer generation of leaders is, I'm going to say, more rational and not so sadistic. It's a milder form. Instead of getting hit with a chain mail fist, you got the velvet glove that hits you.
That's interesting about a shift in the power of the Illuminati from the old generation to the new. It could be beneficial for us. At the same time, it concerns me because perhaps this younger generation hasn't gone through world wars such as the first ones. They haven't experienced these types of events that the older generation has. So perhaps they're power hungry and just waiting for their chance to have that moment to grab hold of the world, this global new world order system that they've been trying to set up for centuries. Perhaps the younger generation is going to be so eager because they haven't had the opportunity to experience wars yet that they just want to get this thing going and cap that pyramid on the top of the pyramid, don't you think?
Well, I don't think that I can see why one might speculate that way, but I don't think that's the way it's leaning. In fact, some of the previous generation, which we still have some of them around, Henry Kissinger, David Rockefeller, these are nasty people. And when it comes to creating wars, these people have done it before, and there's nothing really commendable about the older generation. I think we have a little bit more milder form, but the top thing on their agenda is still population reduction, or to use a more accurate term, genocide. Mm-hmm. And we're the useless eaters that are going to be genocided.
Mm-hmm. So does it still come down to what the goals of the ancient order were ever since 1776, and namely, a one world government, one world cash system, one world religion? Are these still the goals of the old Illuminati transitioning into the new?
Well, there's and I haven't been able to clarify whether I'm dealing with three organizations or one organization with different aspects or different names. But there's definitely a group of people that their job is to ensure that there's a smooth flowing continuity from one generation to the next of the agenda, this age-old agenda, the plan. And so it's not easy to change the agenda, but it can be modified. It can be softened. It's just like, the original plan was to have had us into a third world war long before today, and yet it hasn't happened. Things have been slowed down. Things have been, one of the shifts is that they wanted to eradicate the older generation wanted to eradicate the American middle class, and the new leadership wants to preserve it. So if you're a middle class American and productive and contributing to society, you have a chance of being valued and not being eliminated.
Mm-hmm. Well, what then are we to do about this situation? I mean, people may be watching this right now and be saying, this is all fascinating stuff. What's one to do? What does the average individual do to get involved? What would you tell people out there that is one of the most important things they need to know when it comes to fighting the New World Order?
Well, that's exactly the bottom line. And that's why a lot of people don't want to even hear about these things, is their reaction is, well, what can you do about it? You can't do anything about it. I don't take that approach. And I think we're getting certain questions ahead. It's like getting the cart ahead of the horse. The whole thing is like, let's say you're going to take a trip. You don't ask yourself, am I 100% sure I'm going to reach my destination? Nobody can answer that for 100%. Life doesn't give us those kind of assurances. So what you have to do is you have to say, what's the correct thing to do? Right. And, back in the 90s, people were telling, there were some young women that, and conspiracy people that were awake were saying, oh, don't have any children, Well, I was saying, no, live life normal, have your children. Well, those children are now adults, but people were warning them, oh, they'll, they won't grow up, they'll be sent off to a concentration camp or something like that. Well, no, none of us know what's going to happen. We don't know. These people could have their world shook just like anything else. They're not invincible. They're not gods, even though they think they are. And definitely evil contains the seed of its own destruction. So some of the things that they're doing may unravel their own structures, and now with the internet like it is, it's a totally different situation. The speed at which we're able to call them on some of their baloney is so quick. If they do a false flag, immediately all kinds of people are on it, pointing out things that are inconsistent, pointing out lies, pointing out deceptions. So it's not the same world that it used to be. And, so all I would say is do what's right and let God be our effectiveness.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It really just comes down to doing the right thing and just following your heart and doing the right thing. So for people who, I want to get into this more with you. Obviously, as you said, we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to the big picture of the New World Order. So perhaps we can get into that another time. In fact, folks, I'm going to be traveling to Washington State tonight, and I'll be meeting up with hopefully, Fritz, this weekend so we can get into this discussion a little bit more in depth. But until then, Fritz, perhaps for now you can lead people to, do you have a website? Where can people go if they want to get your books or learn more from you?
They can go to pentracks.com, pentracks.com. Pen, like you write with pen, tracks like a bunny rabbit makes in the snow, pentracks.com. And people are welcome to follow me on Facebook, or if you know me or have a reason for us being Facebook friends, you can request to be a Facebook friend. And I try to write articles. They don't appear every day, but when I have the time, I put up an article a day, which are very informative, giving information and encouragement in a way that you're not going to find out there in other places.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be sure to have all the links in the description, and I hope the CIA kind of stays off your back a little bit. In the meantime, though, hopefully I'll see you on Sunday, and we'll continue the discussion. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Take care.